Welcome, yogis. Let's get started lying on our backs with knees bent. Feet can plant at the edges of the mat, and we'll let the knees fall in towards each other. We're doing a flow to balance the sacral chakra today. So let's make an effort to really press the sacrum into the mat now, getting grounded. Place your palms on your belly below the navel, and we'll start to deepen our breath, slowing down. See if you can send breath all the way down to your diaphragm. So rather than just filling up your lungs to expand through the chest, you'll feel your belly expand with each inhale, and then let your navel sink towards your spine as you exhale. With each progressive breath, let's try to fill up just a little bit more, letting the belly grow larger. Then exhale completely, maybe even using the hands to push gently into the stomach. Keep breathing at your natural rhythm. Let the body melt into the mat. And start to turn your focus inward. Let's draw the feet together, spread the arms wide, and let your knees fall gently from left to right, just to warm up the low spine, get some blood flowing. Synchronize this movement with your breath. Now let's hug the knees into outer ribs, still rooting the sacrum to the mat. You might stay right here or straighten the legs. Grip the ankles or the calves to pull them towards you, like an inverted forward fold. Let's release and point arms and legs straight up toward the sky. We can roll out the ankles and wrists here a few times in each direction. And then when you're ready, we'll hug the knees back into the chest and grip behind the kneecaps so you can use the legs as leverage to draw yourself up to a seat. We'll cross legs here and draw hands to heart center, closing our eyes. Tuck your chin or bow your head to honor our shared intention. We'll bring a healthy balance to the sacral chakra, our center of sensuality and creativity. Now let's sweep arms overhead. Draw prayer hands back to your heart. And bow your head again to seal this intention. Now let's release hands to the knees. Start to roll your neck slowly from side to side. Again, synchronizing the movement with breath. Give yourself permission to linger on one or both sides for a while if you want to really release some tension through the neck, the chest, and the shoulders. Come back to center, and we'll do some shoulder rolls, inhaling to send them up to the ears, exhaling to send them down and back. Repeat 3 times, and then we'll switch direction, rolling the shoulders forward now. Inhale to sweep arms overhead, and this time let's catch opposite elbows with our hands. Take a moment to center yourself here and let the spine get really long, especially through the neck. Then we'll exhale to lean over to the right, expanding through the side ribs. With the arms overhead, this will really kick on your lower core muscles. Come back to center and exhale to tilt over to the left, working the core to keep the heart wide open. Then we'll come back to center and keep the arms right where they are. We'll exhale to fold forward now, reaching through the heart and the elbows to keep the spine long. Find the bottom of this fold. And then we'll inhale deeply to rise back up again. You'll really have to engage the core for this. Now release the arms. You can plant the right hand or forearm on the ground beside you and lean over to the right, reaching across the ear line with the left arm. You might even cradle the head with the left hand and spin your heart up to the sky. Come back through center, and we'll tilt over to the left now, drawing a long line from the right hip through right fingertips. Option 2, cradle the head. Now let's sit up tall. Inhale the arms overhead, and we'll exhale to twist to the right. Let your hands land wherever they can be most supportive and keeping your heart wide open. Inhale back to center with arms overhead, and exhale to twist to the left now. Gaze over the shoulder if it feels good. Now we'll come back to center and uncross the legs, just to send them wide with knees bent. You can stay right here on the mat or grab a prop to get some height under your seat, a cushion or a block, whatever you've got handy. Anchor your hands on the knees, and we'll exhale to lean way back, rounding the spine. Then inhale to send your heart forward, arching the spine. Again, exhale to lean back, drawing shoulder blades apart. And then inhale forward, spilling the pelvic bowl between the legs. Exhale back, and we'll start to make circles like this. Inhaling to send the torso forward and to the right. Exhaling back to the left. We'll do 3 circles in this direction, then switch direction for 3 more. Try not to judge your body here. It's very common to feel a little stuffed up in certain areas with this stretch. But you'll get looser and looser with each circle. Let the movements come organically. Now we'll go ahead and remove the prop if you're using one. And sit with the knees bent, feet planted. Hands can root about a foot behind your seat with the fingers facing forward. Get broad through the chest here. Then we'll cross the right ankle over the left knee and prepare to lift the hips high for a reverse tabletop with figure 4 hip opening. Squeeze your seat, grip the mat with your left toes, and let the head drift back if it's comfortable. Exhale to lower the hips. Now we'll switch sides, crossing the left ankle over right knee, flexing through the the left foot. Now we'll lift the hips up for reverse tabletop. Aim to tuck your tailbone here and push the left knee down towards the mat, staying really active through both legs. We'll exhale to lower the hips and uncross the legs, but keep the hands planted. We'll bend the elbows to lean back slightly, then inhale to sit back up and broaden through the collarbone. Twice more just like that. Then we'll scoot the seat back and extend the legs long in front of you for Dandasana, staff pose. Flex your feet and plant your hands by your hips. We'll move towards a forward fold, but very gradually, just with a shallow tilt to start. Without reaching for the feet, let's experiment with tilting the pelvic bowl forward, melting the belly onto thighs while the heart stretches forward. Then we'll try to recreate that sensation as we move to a full Paschimottanasana, inhaling to reach high through the arms, exhaling to hinge at the hips. Catch a yogi toe hold if it's accessible. You might shift side to side to really root the sits bones. I find it really helps to shine my heart forward first and then release my head towards my knees when my heart can't get any closer to my toes than it already is. Breathe here. Trust in time and gravity to assist you with the opening. Let's roll back up slowly and prepare for Janushirasana. We'll bend the right knee and stamp that foot on the inner left thigh. Use your hands as anchors and swivel your rib cage to face the left leg before you fold over it. If you can't quite reach the left foot, this is a great place to bring in a strap. Just keep flexing the left foot to really stretch the hamstrings. We'll rise back up and plant the right hand behind your hip just so you can pop up onto the right knee for a little baby wild thing, expanding through the whole left side. Lower your seat and we'll switch legs now, bending the left knee for Janushirasana. Point your heart to the right knee and start to fold, maybe grabbing hold of the right foot, maybe even touching the nose or forehead down to the right knee. We'll use the arms for a little leverage, but we want to avoid straining here. So aim to find a depth that you can maintain even if you release your hands. Inhale to rise up, planting the left hand behind the hip. We'll pop up onto left hand and knee for a baby wild thing, just one big expansive breath. And lower the hips back down to the mat. Find your center. And we'll make our way onto hands and knees for tabletop next. Stack the shoulders over wrists, hips right over the knees. Before we do cats and cows, let's try to isolate the tailbone first. Exhaling to tuck it, inhaling to shoot the sits bones really high. Repeat just like that, aiming to keep the shoulders neutral. Then we'll move into full cats and cows, inhaling to arch the spine, exhaling to round it out. Inhale to spill the pelvic bowl forward. Exhale to squeeze through the seat. Inhale to draw the shoulder blades together, and exhale to pull them apart. Now let's go into some intuitive movement. No rules, just whatever feels good for your spine today. Let your natural instinct guide you toward the medicine you need. Now we'll sink the hips towards heels. And then inhale your way forward to a cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale back to child's pose. We'll make that a vinyasa, repeating 3 more times, synchronizing movement with breath. Exhale the hips back. Inhale to send the heart forward. Now let's start to make circles with the hips. sending them forward into the right on an inhale, back into the left as we exhale. 2 more times just like that. And then we'll switch direction, taking circles to the left. You want to let these movements be fluid and loose, so they can be as deep or shallow as you like. We'll land in child's pose, and then inhale back to tabletop. Let's rock onto the right hand and knee, making a kickstand with the right foot, and then open up into a modified half moon on the knee. Flex through the left foot, reach high with the left arm, and if your balance feels steady, send your gaze up to the left hand. Option 2, bend the left knee and grab that foot or ankle, taking a modified sugarcane pose, kicking back into the left hand. Let's release and roll back to tabletop. Now we'll rock onto the left hand and knee, flexing the right foot, aiming to lift that right leg parallel to the ground. Tuck the tailbone. And it's up to you if you want to take this to a modified sugarcane, opening up through the front body, spinning your heart upward. Now we'll release to tabletop and take another quick cat-cow series just to center yourself. Now we'll extend the right leg long behind us, tucking the toes, and shift weight back and forth, getting a little stretch for the calf muscles. Next, we'll sweep that leg off to the right side, grounding through the foot, and keep shifting the weight forward and back, warming up the inside of the hip joint. Now let's send that right leg behind us and sweep it over to the left, tucking toes and gazing over the left shoulder. You might even reach for the heel with the left hand, but don't worry about grasping it. We're just trying to stretch the right side body. Come back to tabletop and wag the tail to clear that out. Then we'll send the left leg long behind us, tucking toes, and push back to stretch the calf muscle. Now sweep the leg off to the left side, grounding the foot, rocking back and forth to open the hip and groin. Now we'll cross the left leg behind, finding a deep side body stretch, gazing back towards the left heel, maybe reaching for it. Take a deep inhale here, and notice how it feels to send breath down to the left psoas. Find a neutral tabletop, and we'll sink the hips back for child's pose with fingers spread wide, getting nice and long through the armpits. And we'll tuck the toes and send the hips high for downward facing dog, drawing the belly towards your thighs. Grip the mat with both hands, almost like they're claws, and engage the fingers to really push the ground away with both arms. You can pedal out the legs, bending deeply into the knees one at a time, maybe tilting hips from side to side. Now let's find a neutral stance in downward dog. Then we'll wave forward to plank from here, making one long line from the heels to the crown of the head. exhale to lower through chaturanga. Inhale to upward dog or cobra. And exhale your way back to downward facing dog. And we'll lift the right leg, bend that knee and stack the hip, still pushing strong through both arms. Now we'll wave forward into plank again with the option to cross the right ankle behind the left as you exhale to lower, keeping the toes tucked as you inhale to up dog. And then release the crossing of the ankles to exhale back to down dog. Now let's sweep the left leg high to repeat this three-legged flow, stacking the hip, bending the knee, squeezing the heel towards the seat. Straighten that leg out again, and we'll wave forward for plank with the option to cross ankles. Exhale to lower, and keep the toes tucked as you inhale up to open your heart. And then exhale back to downward dog. And we'll start to tiptoe to the top of the mat now, still pressing firmly through the hands, squeezing at your core. Once you arrive, ground through the feet and come to fingertips. Exhale to fold, then inhale to rise all the way up, reaching long, and draw hands to heart center. Let's inhale to sweep the arms overhead again. Exhale to hinge at the hips and fold. Inhale to lift halfway. And exhale to fold even deeper now, emptying the belly completely. Inhale, rooting to rise up tall. And exhale, hands to your heart. Now let's take feet to hips distance or wider and plant both hands on the sacrum. Inhale to lengthen the spine and ground through both feet. Then we'll exhale to push the hips forward, pointing the heart up to the sky, releasing your head back if it feels comfortable. You can even bend knees here, sway from side to side if it feels good. Inhale to rise back up, and we'll draw the feet back together. Exhale into a ragdoll fold, staying really loose through the shoulders and arms. Bend the knees and press your belly onto thighs, and you can wrap the arms around the backs of your legs if it's accessible. We'll stay here for a little bit, gradually working our way towards straight legs, pouring more and more weight into the toes. You can always adjust your grip on the legs if you like, maybe gripping the calves or ankles. Now let's move into Padahastasana. Flipping the palms so we can stand directly on top of the hands. It's totally fine if you need to keep the knees bent here. This is all in service of relieving the pressure that tends to build up in the low back when we take forward folds. Now release the hands, and we'll roll slowly up to Tadasana, mountain pose. Draw hands to your heart, and shift weight to balance on your left leg, kicking the right heel back. Catch hold of the inner arch of that foot with your right hand. Inhale to reach high with the left arm, and exhale to tip forward, kicking back into the right hand for dancer pose. Find a steady focal point for your gaze. It'll really help you to maintain balance here. We'll inhale to rise back up and draw that right knee forward now, just preparing to step it all the way back for a high lunge. We'll lift the arms overhead and reach hands for opposite elbows, leaning your head back into this cradle you've created. spilling the rib cage forward. Release the arms, and we'll ground the right heel, spreading out for warrior two. Keep the left knee stacked right over the ankle. And try to tuck your tailbone a little bit here, really opening up through the pelvis. Gaze just over your left fingertips. Now we'll straighten the left leg, reach forward and down, and land in triangle pose. I'm going to start with my left hand inside the left leg here to really focus on maintaining that opening in my hips. You could also make this a core supported posture, sending the right arm across the ear line and reaching back toward the right hip with the left arm. Now let's lower both hands and square shoulders to the mat. Then hop in a little with the right foot, pointing those toes to the top right corner of the mat. We're moving towards revolved triangle, so right fingers can anchor inside, on top of, or outside the left foot. Keep drawing the left hip back as you spread the arms wide, twisting. The torso swivels to the left, but the heart keeps pointing forward. Now we'll lower both hands to the mat and shift forward right into a standing split, sending the right leg high. For today's practice, let's not stress about how high we're sending that right leg, but instead just use it as leverage to fully invert the pelvic bowl. You might find it helps to grip the left calf with one or both hands, compressing the belly onto the left thigh. We'll slowly lower the right leg and make your way back to Tadasana. Then we'll step back with the left foot, facing the long edge of the mat with wide legs. With heels in and toes out, bend the knees to sink into goddess pose, first reaching high, then grabbing opposite elbows overhead. We'll make a little vinyasa here like cats and cows, inhaling to arch the spine and lean back, exhaling to curl in and tuck the tailbone. Again, inhale your heart open, exhale to corset the ribs, engaging the core. Try to remember this sensation the next time you're practicing an inversion. It'll really help you to protect the spine when you're upside down. We'll straighten both legs and release the hands to the low back, drawing feet to parallel. Again, let's push the hips manually forward here and lean into a little back bend if it feels safe. Inhale to rise back up, and with an exhale, we'll start to fold forward, pausing with the chest parallel to the ground, then lowering all the way. Option to take yogi toe hold with peace fingers wrapped around the big toes. You might also grip the outer ankles and engage the core to deepen the fold, almost as if you could send your belly past your thighs. Inhaling, we'll rise up slowly from this fold and then step back to Tadasana at the top of the mat. Take a moment to get centered here, grounding through both feet. Now we'll take dancer pose on the other side, gripping the inner arch of the left foot with left hand. Reach high with the right arm and focus on your drishti point as you tip forward, kicking back into the left palm. Try rolling the left hip down just a little. Inhale to rise up. Draw the left knee forward. Then step it all the way back to land in high lunge. Sweeping the arms up first. Then we'll grip opposite elbows. And rest your head in the hammock you've created. Keep pressing into the left toes and sinking deep into the right knee. Now let's ground the left heel and spread arms really wide for Warrior Two, gazing over right fingertips. Tuck the tailbone and get as wide open through the chest as you can. Now let's straighten the right leg and windmill the arms down to land in triangle pose. Fingers can touch down on the block, on your shin, or all the way down to the mat. Get broad through the front body first. And then if you want to make this a core supported posture, you can reach over the ear line with the left arm. Meanwhile, the right hand can reach back for the left hip. Let's release fingers to the mat and hop the back foot forward a little bit, preparing for a revolved triangle. Left fingers can anchor inside or outside the right foot. Try to shine your heart towards the top of the mat as you reach the right arm to the sky. Breathing deeply. Let's bring both hands back down to the mat, getting centered. And we'll launch right into a standing split from here, sending the left leg high. Again, let's try to focus on inverting the pelvic bowl here without worrying too much about the leg opening. It might help to wrap one or both arms around your standing leg and press your belly onto the thigh. We'll slowly move to stand up, still balancing on the right leg. Draw the left knee forward as we rise and set it down to land into Tadasana. Now let's step back to face the long edge of the mat again for Goddess Pose, drawing the heels in and toes out. Bend the knees deeply. We'll plant the hands on the thighs. Get straight through the elbows, and we'll dip the left shoulder low for a twist, gazing over right shoulder. Inhale to center, and exhale to switch sides. We'll come back to center, straighten the legs, parallel the feet. Place both hands on the sacrum to push the hips forward, supporting yourself in a back bend. Inhale to rise up, and we'll exhale to fold forward. Walking the hands forward a little bit to keep the sits bones pointing high. Now walk both hands over to the right ankle, just finding some length in the lower left flank. Walk hands back to center, lengthening the spine. And then we'll walk hands over to the left ankle now, aiming to keep the hips square. Breathe into the low back. Come back to center, planting fingers under the shoulders. And we'll start bending into the knees one at a time, swaying from side to side. If your hips feel really open, you can eventually release hands and sink down into Skandasana with prayer hands at your heart. You might also add a heart-opening twist, spreading the arms wide with one tricep pinned against the bent knee. Do whatever feels natural for you here with the arms. And remember, there's no need to rush the movement. Next time you're bent into the right knee, we'll pivot into a low crescent lunge, dropping the left knee to the mat. Get steady here. Then we'll link the thumbs and sweep the arms up overhead. You can stay right here or support the sacrum with both hands for a further back bend. Surrender your heart. Inhale to rise up. We'll plant the left hand at the top of the mat and press the right knee away with the right hand for a twisted dragon pose, rolling onto the outer edge of right foot. You might sway left and right here, lubricating the hip joints. Now to add a quad stretch, you can look behind you and bend the left knee, reaching back to catch that foot with the right hand. Kick the left foot back and let your weight rest on the lower left thigh rather than right on the kneecap. Stay wide open through your heart. Gently release the left foot, and we'll pivot right back into your favorite version of Skandasana. We'll take this pose twice on each side. And then next time you sink low into the left knee, we'll pivot into a low crescent lunge, facing the back of the mat now, dropping the right knee. Link your thumbs and inhale to sweep the arms up. Option to keep reaching high or cradle the low back for a supported back bend. Keep pressing firmly through the left foot and imagine squeezing both legs towards each other. Let's inhale to straighten the spine and then plant the right hand. We'll use the left hand to push the left knee out to the side, rolling onto the outer edge of the left foot. This pose is a great hip opener, but if you think of it as a twist as well, you can get some really nice release in the low back. Now let's bend the right knee and reach back to catch that foot with the left hand, opening up the quads as well as the left shoulder joint. Keep sending the left knee wide. To release, let's pivot back into Skandasana, just for one deep lunge on each side. Maybe fingers don't even touch the ground this time. Now we'll turn to face the top of the mat, stepping right into high plank, and then drop both knees to the mat. Exhale to lower the chest and chin, still pointing the sits bones high, gazing forward. Hold here for a full breath cycle, And then we'll snake forward to take a high cobra, possibly on fingertips. Get as long as you can through the front body, squeezing the glutes. Exhale to lower the chest. Inhale to plant your hands and tuck toes. And then exhale to send the hips back for downward facing dog. Push strong through the arms and draw your navel towards your spine. With an inhale, let's sweep the right leg up. And then exhale to draw that knee to your nose. And tip over from here into a side plank on the right arm, pointing the toes out to the left. We'll switch arms now, but keep the right leg lifted. Once you're steady on the left hand and foot, you might reach back and catch that right foot in your hand, just to kick back like we did in dancer pose. Option to release from here into wild thing, touching down with the right foot, pushing the hips up high. Rolling over, we'll land right back in downward dog. Get steady here, and then we'll sweep the left leg high. Exhale to round the spine and draw the knee to the nose, then tilt left into a side plank, extending the left leg straight in front of you. Engage the core here. Now we'll lower the right hand and pivot on the right toes, flipping your side plank over. You might reach back and string a bow with that left leg, or maybe even step the left foot back to open up into wild thing. Reaching long through the left arm, squeezing the seat. Roll over into your down dog, exhaling. We'll inhale forward to plank. Exhale through chaturanga. Inhale up to cobra or up dog. And exhale back to down dog. Now let's drop our knees and spread them wide for child's pose. Taking a few really deep breaths to clear all of that out. Melting into the mat. Let's inhale to sit up. And we'll set the legs up for deer pose now. Take the sole of the left foot to touch the top of the right knee, with the right foot resting near the hip. Root through both sits bones, and exhale to fold forward over the legs. You'll feel this as a really gentle hip opener for the left hip. We'll start to gradually walk both arms over to the left side, just by about a foot at a time. Walk them a little further, take a fold, go a little further back, and eventually we'll recline on the forearms. If the hips feel open enough, you can even release the arms and lie down all the way on your back. You'll feel this in the right lower flank, in the hip flexors and the quads. But if you feel a pinching sensation in the low back, take this as a cue to rise back up onto forearms. Wherever you are, Relax into the stretch. We'll slowly rise back up, keeping the legs in deer shape. Inhale the arms overhead, and exhale to twist to the left, hooking the right hand outside the left knee, keeping the spine nice and long. Then we'll release the twist, but keep the left hand planted by the left glute, and inhale to send the hips up high, reaching long through the right arm. Again, sort of like a baby wild thing. Release and lower the hips. We'll switch sides now, sending the left foot back towards the left hip while the sole of the right foot cradles the left knee. Once you're steady, you can exhale to fold forward, resting on forearms, or maybe stretching both hands to the top of the mat. Let's start to walk the hands over to the right, taking this transition in stages, finding some length through the psoas muscles with each fold. Eventually, we'll come down on the right forearm and find a way to recline. Option 2, release the forearms and lie down on your back, maybe stretching the arms overhead. Use your inhales to expand the lower abdomen, creating some space. And we'll inhale to rise up slowly, keeping the legs as they are. Let's stretch both arms high, and then exhale to take a twist to your right, gazing behind you. Let's plant the right hand and squeeze the glutes to lift up for a baby wild thing, getting wide open through the heart and the hip flexors. Exhale to release. Now let's move to lie down flat on our bellies. You can spread the arms wide to a T, rooting through both palms. And roll onto the right side body for broken wing pose, using the left hand and foot as supportive kickstands, while the right arm stays pinned behind you. You can stay fluid in the left leg to really find a good angle for this twist, or you might even reach back to catch that left foot with the left hand, like a bow pose. Stay relaxed through the neck, and we'll slowly release, rolling back onto the stomach. Spread the arms wide on either side. Now we'll roll onto the left. Let the right hand and foot land wherever they can be most supportive. Option 2, string a bow behind you with the right hand and foot. And draw the shoulder blades together to open up the heart. Let's release. Slowly rolling onto the belly. From here, you can plant your forearms and lift the chest into Sphinx pose with shoulders stacked over the elbows. Now bring the left forearm parallel to your collarbone and bend your right knee. For half frog pose, we'll reach back with the right arm and press down onto the top of the right foot. We're drawing that right heel to the outer right hip. Meanwhile, the elbow will be pointing straight up. Slowly release the right foot. We'll move into another version of half frog now, sending the right knee wide so the thighs are making a 90-degree angle. Make a pillow for your head with both hands and melt into the pose, breathing deeply. Let's rise up onto the forearms again. And we'll take both versions of half frog on the left side now. Point the right fingers to the left and reach back for the left toes with the left hand, pointing that elbow up while you push the foot down. If this is really uncomfortable, try sending the bent knee a little further to the left. This pose can feel really odd in the low back at first, but it works wonders for digestion, for menstrual cramps, for sciatica, and I promise it gets much more comfortable with regular practice. Let's release the left foot and send the left knee wide, making a pillow for your head with both hands. Send breath down to the hips and let gravity work its magic. Now let's rise up for Sphinx pose. From here, we'll bend both knees and reach for the outer edges of feet or ankles, preparing for bow pose. We'll inhale to kick back into the palms, using the strength of the legs and glutes to open up the front body. Resist the impulse to hold your breath here and find a drishti point straight ahead of you, or point your gaze up if it feels comfortable for your neck. We'll exhale to release. Plant your hands, tuck toes, and send the hips back for child's pose, giving the low back a moment to recover. Next, we'll move into a full frog pose. You might spread out a blanket to cushion the knees, or just turn to face the long edge of your mat. We'll spread the knees wide, come down to forearms, driving the sits bones back and up. Feet can be as wide as the knees, or maybe splayed a little bit wider. If you feel steady in the hip opening, you can also reach the arms forward and lower your chest to the mat to stretch the shoulders. As time passes, it might feel good to sink deeper into the hip opening as well. Hip openers like this do tend to stir up some suppressed emotions, so don't be surprised if some really intense feelings start to surface here. Let them come so they can be processed and released. will start to rise up. The hips may be a little tender, so take your time. For our next sequence, we'll make our way to some folds over wide legs. So I'd recommend sitting on a cushion or a folded blanket just to get a little height under the sits bones. That'll really help you to stay long through the low spine. As you find your seat, let's draw the soles of feet together and send the knees wide for cobbler's pose. If the external rotation in your hips feels pretty tight, you can also send the feet further forward, orienting the legs in diamond shape. Whichever you choose, let's grip the feet or ankles. Inhale to send the heart forward first, and then release into a fold if you want to take the opening further. Let's rise up slowly and keep the soles of feet together, drawing them close to the pelvis. We'll plant the hands a few inches behind the seat and inhale to lift the hips for this funky version of reverse tabletop with the knees wide. Gaze straight up or release the head back if it feels safe. Let's gently lower the hips down and stretch legs long in front of you. If you're using a prop under the seat, you can set it aside. We'll recline with the knees bent, planting the feet near sits bones. Sorry about my dog. And pour weight into the shoulders as we lift the hips up high for bridge pose. Option to lace the fingers underneath the seat and draw shoulder blades together. Grip the mat with all 10 toes to engage the hamstrings and expand from the rib cage all the way down through the quads. Exhale to lower the hips. Let's drape the knees right and left like windshield wipers to keep the low back loose. Then come back to center and cross your right ankle over the left knee for reclined pigeon. You can reach through and catch the left thigh or shin, pulling the legs into your chest, keeping the right foot flexed. You might rock side to side to massage the low back while you're here. Release the hands, but keep that figure four crossing in the legs. Let's stretch the arms overhead and let both legs fall over to the left for a gentle twist, with the right foot stamped on the ground. Stay long through the torso and send breath down to the psoas. Let's draw knees back to center, uncross the legs, and we'll switch sides. Crossing the left ankle over the right knee. We'll reach through that figure four to catch the right leg for reclined pigeon, keeping the left foot flexed to protect the knee joint. Option to rock side to side, or find some stillness here. Whatever your body's calling for in this moment. Now let's release the right foot to the mat, stretch both arms overhead, and let the legs drape over to the right. Notice how it feels to keep the spine long here. And try to carry that sensation over into standing or seated twists for your next practice. This world puts a lot of pressure on us to push ourselves to the limit with everything we do, but often the release we seek in yoga can only really be found through relinquishing control, giving ourselves room to be soft and supple. Let's draw knees back to center and uncross the legs. For our last asana, we'll send the feet overhead in plow pose, aiming to touch the toes down to the ground and stack the hips over the shoulders. The low spine is exposed here, so you might take this chance to give yourself a gentle massage. Now let's roll out of plow slowly, letting the body unfurl like a blooming flower. And we'll set ourselves up for our final resting pose now. I'll be taking Shavasana with a bolster under my back and my legs in diamond shape. But please feel free to assume whatever posture serves you best for release and meditation. If you're following me and your knees are floating in diamond shape, you might consider using some cushions or blocks to support them. Once you're settled, you can flip your palms up to face the sky, close your eyes, and let your breath slow to a natural rhythm. The Sacral Chakra is known as a center of creativity and sensuality, but it's also a center for digestional processes. So let this meditative rest serve the same function. Use this as a time to digest the experience of this practice, to process and absorb whatever nourishes you, and let go of all the rest. This will free up energy that we can channel into creative endeavors and allow us to connect more deeply with our sensory and sensual experiences, staying fully present in the here and now. Sink into your stillness, and I'll wake you in a few minutes. We'll introduce small movements in the fingers and toes to reawaken the body. Then I'll invite you to place both hands on the low belly again, channeling warmth and healing energy to the sacral region. Let's fill the belly with breath so the fingers are pulled away from each other. Exhale to draw the navel to spine. Now let's hold on to that deep and powerful breath and gently make our way to an upright seat. We'll close our practice by bowing over prayer hands, basking in gratitude for our miraculous bodies, for all the ways they take care of us, for all the lessons they teach us, for the sense of fulfillment we enjoy when they allow us to connect with other souls. Thank you so much for practicing with me today, Yogi. If you enjoyed this class, please give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment, subscribe to my channel so we can practice together again soon. In the meantime, be good to yourself, and here's wishing you peace. Namaste.